So I'd like to talk a little bit about attention. Attention is such an interesting thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well. How does my ability to pay attention shape my life and my goals, right? So I remember being aware of this question, like almost non-verbally, growing up. Even as a child during play, I could feel a tension between connecting with others, kind of like if I was asked to come away from things that I was enjoying and flowing into that, and also wanting to keep attention on something which was really like pleasurable. And that could be anything. That could be playing with dolls. I already had this sense of, okay, I'm paying attention, I'm immersed in something, and my mood coming away from that is like very variable. Throughout my life, I also gauge the same thing, like how I function, like, and how I show up to things, and how much I achieve in my life is really related to my capacity for attention, my perception of time, and the ability to balance these two as well. Where you've put many young people, children, and even adults introduce certain technologies, certain devices, certain applications, games, which are very much in the mind, which immerse the mind, and which also create a sense of reward. You can't tell me that nobody had already thought of the impact of the inventions and the technologies which were being introduced on a national level. One of the worst things which is coming up, obviously, which we all know about, is things like porn addiction and gaming addiction. And it's been coming up for a long time. And it's really painful to see people who are at that extreme. But for myself as well, I have to say I'm almost disgusted and deeply pained at the amount of time I wasted as a teenager, as a young adult in my early 20s, with my attention being immersed in certain things. And also there was a sense that I could not have helped but being in that world. People have addictions. People are addicted to social media, to their screens, and it's a real life problem. People are not spending time with one another because being on YouTube, being on Netflix makes you feel like you're interacting with real human beings, or being on a gaming platform almost mimics that experience. There was no information to my parents, to me, about, okay, this is so dangerous. This is really deeply ruining your life, basically. This is stopping you from getting places. I did achieve things. I got my degree and I worked in a job, etc. I got my degree in humanities and social work. I was in a service role, and I ended up in the mental health and addiction services. I've now left that that type of career, but it was eye-opening as well, that like I was one of the people who almost made it despite all of that. But many people were really psychologically affected, and their addictions were reinforced, were created or reinforced by that same society that I grew in, that same culture around technology and this new kind of inventions which farm attention, which steal attention, which encourage you to misapply your attention, and which encourage you to be out of control of yourself, but where they're also perfectly in control. Anyway, so having this in mind, I just want to urge people, to ask yourself, have you been controlled because your attention has been farmed in a particular way? And who has benefited from your attention being farmed, being abused or neglected, misused, overused, misapplied? Who has benefited from this? I don't know who to point fingers at, and whether it's fair to do that, but I can certainly say that there is people who were aware that, kind of like the internet and technology is, and exposing this to young people has a certain impact. And why didn't the people who could have prevented this, who could have warned you, stop this from happening? I want to invite all of us to dig deep. Yes, and admit that there was control there, and also a lack of concern from governments and lack of action as well. I'm talking on the bigger systematic level, but we can also look at, personally our parents. So speaking for myself, I had a phone since I was 11 and a computer, and I was able to go onto it as much as I wanted. And nothing is good or bad. There's no such thing as inherently bad, inherently evil, good, but it certainly had an impact on my brain, on the way I experience the world, my sense of motivation as well. After binging on some movie, binging on gaming, what comes is the deep dump and the dopamine crash. And also when you come out of it, you realize certain things which needed to be done in real life, although you might be doing them, are done at a much less efficiently, or you don't actually do them. Realize that it can't just be a coincidence. If I was to invent anything, I would have thought of the advantages, the disadvantages, and the risk behind it. I feel personally wronged. I feel we are wronging children right now. Things are taking a different turn. We've got parents who are regulating, who are exercising parental controls, and that's great. But it's my intuition and my sense is saying this is very much happening now, but things have already gone very far for at least people from 1 or 2 generations. One of the feelings that come up for me, and I invite you to feel it too, is a sense of outrage. I don't mean you need to be angry, but I think it's okay to feel this outrage when you realize a lot of your time has been drained. We've been very controlled. This is a very, very painful phenomenon, and it has left many geniuses, many prodigies, many people capable of accomplishing so much with unrealized potential, and we should be deeply saddened by this because we are all complaining about how the world isn't where it's meant to be. For some people, they have neurodivergence, they've got conditions like ADHD, autism, schizophrenia, etc. These all come with complex brain chemistry in terms of it's not easily predictable, but this kind of neurodivergences come with their own set of patterns, dopamine kind of interactions. If somebody has that kind of neurodivergence, that the way they've been impacted by all of that is probably much worse. If you've already got trouble controlling your attention, your ability to get into things, to start something, to get out of it, to finish it, to transition, and then there's also people kind of fighting to make sure your attention is taken for their benefits, groups, companies, inventors, tech moguls. Imagine if you've already got that inherent struggle with your capacity to control attention, and then there's also an outsider making it that much more difficult. This is deeply unfair. This is deeply painful, and you might be a very smart, intelligent individual, but this almost can cripple you. I feel almost disgusted sometimes when I think about these things. We're at a point where we're seeing the results of certain things. We're at a point where we are asking ourselves, okay, why are certain things not happening anymore in society? Why aren't we spending time outdoors, spending more active roles? So almost like a black hole, which sucks your attention, leaves people blind to what's happening, and it's draining so much, and we are seeing the damage, and we're still none the wiser about how to exactly navigate it. Having reflected on those truths, I want to talk about some of the solutions. There's one saying by somebody who I used to actually follow on Twitter, which is kind of pertinent and ironic. His name was Malanda J. He was a poet. He said this phrase, "I escape using the same mind which traps me." Often the key is in the cage. In the same way, we could actually apply this thing of we can escape through virtual means and through technologies. Like I said, I worked in addiction services, and one of the things that happens is when people have any addictive behavior, it's very easy to think they're more in control than they are and to excuse it. And you want to you want to be on the other side where you underestimate how much control you have, underestimate how much how entrenched you are in the things. We can be very mindful, but for me, I know it's gone too far. I know there's habits which are so deeply ingrained that I cannot help, and I protect myself, I protect my attention, and I protect my peace. I use the Lock Me Out application. I don't know the owners. They're not endorsing me. They're not sponsoring me. They offer it for free, although you can also upgrade to a paid membership with Lock Me Out. And it allows you to actually block apps, block websites for months and for a certain period of time. It means that you are protected. I've blocked Facebook, I've blocked Twitter, I've blocked Instagram, and it's been so powerful in terms of my productivity and my sense of self-worth. I've limited the amount of time I can spend on anyway, I won't say the word because that app is controversial, but on streaming platforms where they allow you to watch things, I've got a limit. I can watch it for 2 hours a day and then I'm locked out. My emails as well, I've got conditions in place. Like there's an email that I can access all the time because that's an email about my personal progress. And then there's certain emails that are like my Yahoo, which I am locked out of, especially, except for maybe 30 minutes of the day. So it's been around protecting myself using technologies, because for every certain thing which is going in a direction, in almost an evil direction, in an unhealthy direction, there is another force which is going in the opposite direction. And it's about whether we are aware, if we're made known. Don't be this 20-year-old version of me who is on 8 hours a day in a dopamine hole where you are playing games, where you are binging on YouTube, and you're wasting so much time which you could be using to realize your full potential even more than you already are. You might think I've got friends, I've got relationships, but imagine how much deeper they could be. They could be if you were really present and really showing up much more than you are. The other one that I use also for my computer is a software called Code Turkey. There's certain information that I don't need to hear in my life because it clutters my mind, and a lot of it is false and confusing and paints a certain narrative about the world, which isn't quite true. So, with my Code Turkey software, I'm able to make sure when I'm on my computer, I'm protected from information which is probably quite confusing, which encourages delusion. And I also make sure I can still access information which is true, relevant, and brief. I will potentially link very good sources, ethical sources of information down below. Other than these things on your phone or on your computer or laptop, which like these apps and software which protect you and block certain things out. What is very powerful is the ability to just actually come off them. But when you're off them, to feel safe, to feel guided, to feel like you're still making effective use of your time. I'm also in the middle of releasing my own product. It's called the Slow Earth Coach. And this product is offline and doesn't require Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. This is literally a very simple square device, which gives you guidance and prompts around how to spend your time when you are having offline periods. So the device that I came up with is one of these things which kind of scaffold you and hold you as you're coming off technology. You know, when you become present, you notice so many thoughts, and you notice so much work that needs to be done, and so many problems, and so much also emptiness. You notice the empty space. So, you know, this device that I came up with is an offline thing that speaks to you like a coach, and hopefully helps you to feel held as you go into that space, which is so offline, and might actually even feel alien. It's something I wish I had, and I put a lot of thoughts when I decided. It's not perfect, it's not clever, it's just a simple thing. And I want to also stress the importance, should you use any of this kind of apps like Lock Me Out, or thing, you know, software like Code Turkey, or if you are to purchase any device that someone comes up with which promises, you know, to help you, be very careful that you cannot bypass it, because those were the mistakes I made. So, okay, my week is going to be so productive, so present. I'm gonna build, I'm gonna connect, and then I've put all the settings in place. I'm ready to go. And then after 5 hours, I managed to bypass everything. And then my week is out of control now. Elon Musk is now benefiting from my presence, from my existence. To wrap this up, I am going to talk a little bit about some Buddhist teachings. Now, you don't have to be Buddhist, but I just encourage you to take them in the truth from this teaching of distracting thoughts. First, as I heard, on one occasion, the Buddha was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus: "Monks, Venerable Sir," they replied, "the Buddha said this: Monks, when a bhikkhu is pursuing the higher mind, from time to time, he should give attention to 5 signs. What are the 5? Right. So again, this teaching is very interesting because even the Buddha had thoughts and reflected about attention and what is good to pay attention to. The teaching goes on. Here, monks, when a monk is giving attention to some sign, and owing to that sign, there arises in him bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with ill will, and with confusion. Then he should give attention to some other sign connected to what is wholesome. The point is, you know, this is a real danger. The way attention is being used is a real danger, and well done to those of us who are taking steps to reclaim our power and to be more present and to actually live a life which is meaningful and which fulfills purpose. The point is, you know, this is a real danger. The way attention is being used is a real danger, and well done to those of us who are taking steps to reclaim our power and to be more present and to actually live a life which is meaningful and which fulfills purpose.